Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Today we are going to see the topic about the generative AI. I think this screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, okay. Is my screen is visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so today our topic is generative AI. So before moving to the generative AI, so what is the basic behind all these terms? Okay, so from the term, from the title itself, we just understand that so generative AI, the basic is about the AI, and that is artificial intelligence. So from that intelligence, so the extension of the artificial intelligence is machine learning, and so again the extension of the machine learning is the deep learning. Okay, so nowadays deep learning and the generative AI rules the world. Okay, so the artificial intelligence has gone through the many cycles of hype. Okay, so from the existence from the release of the artificial intelligence has to come into existence in the early of 1960s itself. Okay, so and generative AI was also introduced in the 1960s itself as a chatbot. Okay, so but after the existence of the GANs, that is generative adversarial networks only, so we just came to know that what is generative AI is. Okay. So only after the introduction of GANs, generative adversarial networks, in the earliest of 2014. Okay. So GANs are introduced only in the 2014. So after the introduction of this GAN only, so generative AI become more popular or more existence. Okay. So GANs is also a type of machine learning algorithm. So as I have already specified, AI is an is the after AI, the extension of the AI will be the machine learning. So the type of machine learning algorithm GAN is also the generative AI could create convincingly authentic images, videos, and audios of real people. Okay, so what's the main purpose behind the generative AI is it just creates a variety of data such as images, videos, audio, text, and 3D models. Okay, so the foremost application of the generative AI will be a ChatGPT. Okay, so all we know about what is ChatGPT is. If you are a student or a staff, if anything ask any questions about you, so automatically we just move on to the ChatGPT, and what the question is, we just type to that, and we get the answer exactly what we want. Okay, so another extension of the ChatGPT is also released now. It just tell the user that. So what exactly you search? So this is the content you search, or that is the content you search. You just compare these two content and you have to extract what you want. Okay. So that much of knowledge has influence now. So it's a generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence. As we have already known, it's a type of artificial intelligence, and what it differs from the already existing one. Okay, it just thinks as a human and creates whatever topic or whatever content that exactly user wants. Okay, so generative AI is capable of producing highly realistic and complex content. Okay, that's the main goal or main objective behind the generative AI is. Okay, so it just create or it just produce a highly realistic and complex content. Okay, so, so why we need the generative AI? So we just want mimics the same content as that of the human. Okay, so all we know that so the human thinking is differ from one person to one person. Okay, so what I think varies from what you think. Okay, so we just replace the human in terms of both the activities. Okay, so we just produce the highly realistic, just like the other humans will also think, and the complex contents also. Okay, so for this, the many industries has been flourished, okay, such as gaming, entertainment, and product design is one of these are the foremost industries that have developed when Gen AI came. Okay. And this is the journey to the generative AI. So, as I have already mentioned, even though the artificial intelligence came into existence in the earliest of 19th century, so we just use it in the 21st century only. Most commonly used AI will be existing in the 21st century only. Okay, so the here the generative AI journey starts from the 2010 as a near perfect translation of natural language. Okay, so the generative AI behind the scene, we just started the journey only from the natural language processing (NLP). Okay, so the generative AI journey starts from the NLP only around 2010. Okay, so here the researchers are working on the natural language translation, and they discovered the models exposed to the vast amount of text produced. Okay, so what's the what we say? What is the logic behind the NL? So we just translate the our native language into the any other language. So in general, it has just translated into the English language. Okay, so what we speak or what we have to write in our natural language, that has to be translated into the maybe the most understand language is English. Okay, so that has to be translated into the English. So that is the logarithm, or that is the procedure behind the NLP. Okay, so in that they just accidentally found the model that so most of the contents has to be incorporated in that model, and the model will be good for making the NLP. Okay, so the introduction of the NLP model came into existence only in the 2010. Okay, so after that they just move on to the mastering of words. Okay, so the mastering of words means so the same word has a different meaning, and the different meaning has the the same meaning has different words. Okay, so the same word has a different meaning, and the same meaning with the different words. Okay. So this has to be incorporated into your system, and the system will understand, the system will differentiate the languages what you have to speak, and they have to incorporate it to your algorithms, and it comes the meaning, mastering the meaning of words. Okay, so this came into existence in the 2014 only. Okay, so after that, so the basic behind the generative AI is LLM. LLM came into existence. So LLM is nothing but the large language model. Okay, so it's just the extension of the mastering of the meaning of words. Okay, so once we master the meaning of the words and we just make it an extension as a large language models. So the advances came into existence in the year 2017 to 22. Okay, so it creates the foundation model. It's a cost prohibitive, but once created, they can be customized using a small amount of additional data. Okay, so the large language model, as I have already mentioned, the large language model is nothing but the existence mastering of the meaning of the words. Sorry, extension of the mastering of the meaning of the words. Okay, so it just the researchers has going on from the year 2017 to 2022. Okay, so in the year 2022 only, okay, they have founded the ChatGPT. Okay. ChatGPT is nothing but the so we have already known what is chatbot is. Okay, so it's just the extension of the chatbot is ChatGPT. Okay. Uh, so which gives the user a simple way to access a large language foundation model. So as I have already told, the ChatGPT basic is only the LLM. The brilliance of the ChatGPT is not just in the incredibly advanced model, its ability to tap into the model by conversing with its natural language. Okay, so what it not only produces in the existing contents, it just make it a feasible way in order to convince the user that what they want. Okay, so as I have already mentioned, uh, in the nowadays the ChatGPT is also again well versed. So it just produces the content that so two different contents has to be produced based on the searching of the user, and it just keep it to the user that which one exactly matches to the search. Okay, it's up to you. Okay. So this is the journey of the generative AI. So the journey starts from the 2010 and it ends in the 2022 as a chat GPT. So what we have seen, and the journey will continue if there is any extension came. Okay. Eight. Once again, so it will not open properly. Types of generative AI. Yes. Okay. So the next one is the types of AI. So as we have already specified, AI is the key term or the keyword behind your generative AI. So what is the difference? What are the journeys that the AI has got? Okay. So the first one is a traditional AI. As we have all known, the traditional AI came into existence only with the fuzzy language processing. Okay. So what the fuzzy language processing means, it's just based on the if then else rule. Okay. So if it happens, then what you have to do, and then else what we have to do. Okay. That is the if then else rule. Okay. So most of our traditional AI will just focus on that rule based learning. Okay. So it just perform the predetermined rules or algorithms, and they have primarily rule-based systems that can learn from the data, and we have to improve it over time. Okay. The artificial intelligence is nothing but the mimic of our human brains. So what we have to think, it varies from time to time. Okay, so based on the already existing data or based on the predetermined rules, the traditional AI algorithms will make the decisions. Okay, uh, so uh, the main difference between the traditional AI and the generative AI is it can learn from the data and generate the new data instances. That is the main difference between the traditional AI and the generative AI is. Okay, so the traditional AI, what it already having the data, so based on the data, it just generates the output. So, but in the generative AI, it can learn from the data and creates a new data. Okay. So that's the main difference. And the extension of the AI is the machine learning, as I have already mentioned. So it enables the system to learn from the data rather than through the explicit programming. Okay. So here the machine learning. So from the term, we just define what is the machine learning is. The machine has to learn from the already existing data. Okay. So that is the key term behind the machine learning is. And here the generative AI makes use of the machine learning techniques to learn from and create the new data. Okay. So uh, generative AI is also takes the advantages of the machine learning, and it creates the new data based on the already existing machine learning algorithms. Okay. And the next one is conversational AI. So the conversational AI enables the machines to understand and respond to human language in a human-like manner. Okay, so your conversational AI came into existence in the NLP processing only, natural language processing. It just tries to understand what what he tries to speak or what he tries to text. Okay, so it just converts the natural language into the another one natural language. Okay, so as I have already spoke, in general, mostly it just convert the text into English. So because English is a universal languages. Okay, so while generative AI and conversational AI may seem similar, particularly when generative AI is used to generate the human-like text, the primary difference lie in the purpose. So what we have to use there is the difference between the generative AI and conversational AIs. So conversational AI is used to create an interactive system that can engage in the human-like dialogue. So whereas generative is broader, encompassing the creation of various data types. Okay, so conversational AI is mainly meant for creating the text only. Okay, so you just convert that natural language text into another language text. Okay, so for example, you just convert a Hindi text into an English or a Hindi text into a Kannada, and so on. Okay, so the main purpose of using the generative AI is not only the text, but it also creates an images, audio, video, or three-dimensional models. So anything, what you have or what you want, okay, so that has to be created into its own way. Okay, so based on the large number of inputs, or based on the millions and trillions of data they have, it just creates a own data. So based on the already existing input. Okay. These are the differences between the traditional machine learning and conversational AI with our generative AI. And the last one is artificial general intelligence. Okay, where we have to use this AGI is wherever an autonomous plays a role, we just implement it in the AGI. Okay, so it may be any autonomous vehicle, or it may be radars, or it may be your drones or something. Okay, so wherever an autonomous has to be played a key role, that AGA is a backstream behind it. Okay, so AGA will be able to understand, learn, adapt, and implement the knowledge across a wide range of tasks. Okay, so whenever an autonomous has to come into existence, it has to understand what we have to give them the input and learn and adapt. And finally, it just implement the knowledge that it has already learned. Okay, so while generative AI can be a component of search systems, here generative AI is also an autonomous system, but it's not equivalent to the AI. Okay, so generative AI focus on creating the new data. So whereas AGA denotes the broader level of autonomy and capability. Okay, so even though a generative AI is also an autonomous system. Okay, so as I have already specified, generative AI is the extension of all these. Okay, so it just takes advantage of the machine learning and takes advantage of the artificial AGI, artificial general intelligence. It takes all the advantages from the already existing one, and it just creates a new data that more closely what we have expected. Okay, and yes, this is the history of generative AI. So the history came into existence once the introduction of AI. So the AI introduction has started in the year of 1980s. So the data scientists seeking to move beyond the predefined rules and algorithms of traditional AI. Yes, as I have already mentioned. So what the traditional AI contains? So the traditional AI contains only the predefined rules. So for example, fuzzy rules. Okay, so what is the fuzzy rules contains? If then else rules. Okay. If it happens, then you have to do like this. Else, what is the other part? Else part has to do this. Okay. So this is the journey starts from, and later in the 1980s and 90s came into the introduction of models such as Hope-Field networks and Boltzmann's machine. Okay, Hope-Field networks and Boltzmann's machines is also a machine learning algorithms that has to create the neural networks capable of generating the new data. Okay, it's also a complex structure, and but scaling up to the large data sets was difficult, and issues such as vanishing gradient problem. Okay, so it's also one of the problem faced by the neural networks, and it has to be rectified by means of the deep learning itself. Okay, Hope-Field networks and Boltzmann's machines came into existence in the early 90s, and the disadvantages behind this Boltzmann's machine is if you have to feed in a large number of data. Okay, so if your data is contains millions or trillions of data, then it fails to understand or it fails to train up, and it just goes on vanishing gradient problem is. Okay, and so even though the Boltzmann's machine and Hope-Field is the starting point of the deep networks of the deep learning. Okay, so and in 2006, the restricted Boltzmann's machine came into existence in order to solve this vanishing gradient problem. Okay, so it contains a pre-trained layers in the deep neural network. Okay, so it is the basic behind the deep learning. So that is the deep neural network. After the AI invention, machine learning. So machine learning is nothing but the neural networks with the different layers of the neurons. Okay, so as I have already specified, AI is a mimic of the human brain. So the human brain contains the neurons that are interconnected with each other, and in which neuron has to be initiated. So based on that neuron, the activities has to be undergone. Okay. So here the base behind the neural network is our human brain. That is our artificial intelligence. So once the neural network came into existence, your machine learning has gone up. Vast story. Okay, gone through a vast story. The extension of the machine learning is the deep learning. So the deep learning, the procedure behind the deep learning is the deep neural network. So the deep neural network, it contains a pre-trained layers. Okay, so what's the difference between the machine learning and the deep learning is, so in the machine learning, so we just manually fed the inputs to the each and every layers. So for example, our input, so after you are giving the input, so you just gone through the pre-processing. So once the pre-processing has done, you just gone through the feature extraction. After the feature extraction, the segmentation and classification. So in general, classification is the final stage. Okay, so if you've gone for any medical related applications, okay, for example, if you have identified any cancer image in the already existing CT or MRI images, so you have to spot out where the cancer is. Okay, so for this, the traditional machine learning algorithm, the first and foremost step is a pre-processing. So the next pre-processing is the feature extraction. So once you have done the feature extraction, you fed the output of the feature extraction into the segmentation algorithm. So once you segmented, you just classified in which stage the cancer the person is in. Okay, so the person is in maybe a first stage, second stage, and so on. Okay, this is the way you have to identify the uh, cancerous spot in a CT or MRI scan in a traditional machine learning algorithm. So, in the deep learning algorithms, this has to be the pre-processing and the feature extraction. All the terms has to be specified by means of the pre-training layers in the deep neural network. Okay. So once, what's the difference between ML and DL? So once you have given the input in the DL, you just get the output. There is no manual interaction in the DL. Okay, so that's why a lot of data sets, if your data set is very complex, then we just go for a DL or deep neural networks. Okay, so and in the year 2014, the generative adversarial network. Okay, so it's just the extension of again the deep neural network. Okay, GAN was introduced, demonstrating an impressive ability to generate the realistic data. Okay, especially in terms of images. So GANs are mainly used in order to specify the in order to create a new image. That image will be exactly look like your already existing images. Okay, so this has to be done. Okay, this has to be done by means of two different models in the GANs. So one is the encoder and another one is the decoder here. Okay, sorry, generator and the encoder here. So in the GANs, two different procedures has to be followed in the GANs. So one is the encoder and another one is the generator. Okay, the purpose of a generator is to generate the new images. Okay, mostly its main application is in the images. So new images that look exactly like your original one. Okay, so and the purpose of the decoder is to differentiate how much your original image, sorry, how much your fake image has to look like your original images. So for example, you are creating one fake currency. Okay. What's the purpose of generator here? The generator creates a fake currency that look exactly like your original currency is. And the purpose of the decoder is how much your original currency and how much your fake currency will have a relationship with each other. Okay. Only after the existence of already in the previous slides, we just know that only after the existence of the GANs, your generative AI will came into more existence. Okay. And the late of 2017, after the introduction of the transformer based models, particularly in the domain of NLP, the models like generative pre-training transformer, that is your GPT, chat GPT. So the expansion of the GPT is generative pre-training transformers. Okay. Came into existence only after the NLP by means of the LLM, large language models, came into existence. Okay. So nowadays, the advanced version of the GPT is ChatGPT-4 and DAL-E. Um, the technology behind this is what we have seen in the next slides. Okay. Nowadays, what is the extension of the GPTs? GPT version 4 and the DAL-E. And how generative AI works. So it works on the principle of the machine learning. Yeah. As we have already known, machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence, and that enables the machines to learn from the already existing data. Okay. Unlike the traditional AI, the generative AI takes a step further. It not only learns the data, but it also creates the new data from the already existing one. Okay. The general workflow comes into existence from the data collection steps. Okay. So all you need, so for example, if you just tell a kid about what is so tell a story about a ball. Okay. So for example, it may be a KG kid. Okay. So what he tells, so ball is a round shaped one, or it may be in different colors. What he learned from the already existing one, he just defines the ball as message. Okay, so but if you have tell the same or tell ask the same question to a teenager or an professor, so the difference between the answer that you have to be obtained from the kid and the difference between the answer from the college students and the professor, it differs. Okay, so that is the difference between your already machine learning and the generative AIs. Here, the data collection plays a foremost role, plays a key role. Okay, so here a large data set containing an examples of a type of content to be generated is collected. Okay, so whatever data that has to be obtained from the free search. Okay, so it may be a Google search or any other free content that has to be available in the net. That content has to be incorporated, and we have to given this as an input to our ChatGPT. Okay. So here the data collection is the foremost thing that you have to get them how much accuracy of your data is. Okay. For example, a data set of images for generating a realistic pictures, or a data set of text for generating the coherent sentences. And next one is the next key term. So once we have collected the data, okay, after that what we have to do? So we just train the model. Okay, so we have already existing the different types of models, and the generative AI constructed the your deep neural networks also. Okay, the model is trained at the collected data set to learn the underlying patterns and structures in the data. Okay. So for example, in the Google search itself, we just specified. Okay. So for example, I am. So if you just try write I am, so it just shows what you have to search. Okay, so based on the already existing search, so or based on the already existing searches by different users or from the same user, so it just shows some content. Okay, so that this is the topic you have to be searched or not. Okay, so based on the model training, so it just trained on the collected data set to learn the underlying patterns. So what the patterns or what the user will exactly want. Phase. So the first phase is data collection, and the second phase is model training, and the next one is generation. Okay, so once the model is trained, it can generate a new content by sampling from the latent space or through a generator network, depending on the model used. Okay, so if you just want any text content, then it just generate a new content from the already existing data. Okay, so if you just want any 3D models, so based on the user's search or based on the user's necessity, so you just create a model overall like looking the same as you expected. Okay, so the generated content is the synthesis of what the model has learned from the training data. Yes. So even though we just mimic the human brains, so the machine cannot be a human. Okay, so because the humans, as a human, we just thought, or we just create our, or we just implement our own creativity and so on. Okay, so but even though it just mimics a human brain, it's not a human. Okay, it's a machine only. Okay, so it just mimic what we have to given as an input. That's all. Okay, the generated content is a synthesis of what the model has learned from the training data. Okay, so what it learned from the already existing data, that it just produces. Okay, so it's a machine only. And the last step is refinement. So depending on the task and application, the generated content may undergo further refinement or post-processing to improve its quality. Okay, so refinement is nothing but your fine-tuning. Okay, so once we get the output, okay, so even though it's a feasible one, okay, we just make it a fine tune. We just fine tune it in order to get the more accurate one. Okay, or improve its quality. So the quality has plays an important role in terms of 3D models or images or videos. Okay, so but the quality has not having much important in the text-based contents. Okay, so the text-based contents um, uh, only relevancy make it a feasible one. Okay, so so the cornerstone of the generative AI is deep learning. So deep neural networks plays an important role in the generative AIs, and it imitates the working of the human brain, as I have already specified, in the processing data and creating the patterns for the decision making. Okay, and so here, such networks comprise numerous interconnected layers that process and transfer information, mimicking neurons in the human brain. Okay, so here also the deep neural networks that we have specified in the deep learning. So what does the deep means? It contains a more number of layers when compared to the machine, normal neural network layer is. Okay, so here the deep neural networks plays an important role in creating the generative AI. So here it contains a large number of hidden layers, as we have already known. So the neural network contains three different layers. The input layer, so what we have given as a input, and the second one is hidden layer, and the last one is output layer. What we get the output is. Okay, so the hidden layer plays an important role in the deep neural network is okay, as much as you increase the hidden layers, so you get exactly the accuracy of or you get more accuracy in the output is. Okay. So here also the large number of interconnected layers has to be done in the generative AI, and it has the transfer the informations, and it mimic the neurons in the human brains also. Okay. And the next one is types of generative AI. Okay, so up to now, what we have seen, so we just seen where the generative AI came from, and what are the different types of AI and how it differs from the generative AI, and what's the workflow of a generative AI, and what are the journeys that gone through the generative AIs. Then next one is types of generative AI. Uh, so the generative AI, even though it's a it it has to be used for the different types of or diverse applications, each with unique characteristics, and it's suitable for different applications. Okay, so we cannot say a single machine can incorporate with them all applications. Okay, so it may be different. So the different characteristics has to be suitable for the different applications of it. Okay. So the first and foremost type of generative AI is transformer-based models. Okay. So for the text generation, transformer-based models such as GPT-3 and the new version of GPT-4 has came into existence. Okay. So the transformer-based model is mainly focused on the textual-based data. Okay. So the GPT is nothing but the generative pre-trained transformer. Okay, so your ChatGPT is the extension of the transformer only. Okay, so the transformer's main use is for the text-based applications. Okay, they use an architecture. They allows them to consider the entire text of the input data, enabling them to generate the highly coherent and contextually appropriate text. Okay, that's the main term. Okay, so your output. So what you have to get it from the generative AI. So it should be coherent. That what you have to search. Okay, and contextually appropriate text. Okay, so the suitability of the text will be different based on the questions, and you have already gone through that. So if you are using the GPT, so for each and every time you search the same content, it shows the different answers. Okay, so based on the already existing input, or based on the previous questions that you have asked. Okay, your answer may be different. So, and the second foremost one is, as I have already spoke, generative adversarial networks. Okay. So GANs consists of the two parts, the generator and a discriminator. Sorry, I just specified it as a decoder. It's a discriminator, a generator and a discriminator. The generator, so it having two parts, the GANs. That is generative adversarial network. It's a type of generative AI. Okay. So what it produces, the GANs, it consists of the two different parts, a generator and a discriminator. Here, the generator, as the name specifies, it just generates the new data. Okay. So what is the new data here? First, I just specify the process of the GANs. Two parts are there. So the generator creates a new data, and the discriminator evaluates these instances for authenticity. Okay. So for example, if you want to identify a 100 rupees note is a fake note or not. Okay, it's a fake currency or not. Okay. So here the GANs plays an important role. Okay. So here the GANs in the generator, it just generates a new fake currency as that of the already existing one. Okay. So what's the role of discriminator? the discriminator discriminates or differentiates. So what is the how much it just relates with the original currency, 100 rupees note. Okay, so what's the role of the discriminator? It evaluates how much it just incorporate with your original note. Okay, original 100 rupees note. Okay, so for example, you have to create your fair currency. So based on the GANs, you have created a fair currency note, and your fair currency note is some 85% similar to the already existing one. Okay, already existing original 100 rupees note. Okay, then you have to again back propagate it. So you just modify the content and you have to make it as a more closely, that is 98% or 99% more closely to that your original currency note. Okay, so that's the main purpose of using the GANs. So here the generator creates a new instance, and while the discriminator evaluates this instance for authenticity. So here the authenticity is nothing but the accuracy. So how much it more accurate looking like your original data will be. Okay. And the main purpose of using the GANs is images or in the games also. Okay. So, and become skilled at creating highly realistic data instances. In the future, it may be become skilled at creating the highly realistic data instances. Okay. So nowadays, the old political leaders came into existence, or the actors who are dead came into existence by means of the AI in any of the new films. Okay, so such things are also happen in the by means of the GANs. Okay. And the next one is variational autoencoders, VAEs. So it's another type of generative model that leverages the principle of statistical inference. Okay, so this may be by it has to be done by encoding the input data into a latent space and then decoding this latent representation to generate a new data. Okay. So encoding and decoding has to be done in the security purpose. Okay, so the same encoding and decoding process has to be implemented in the VAEs, and it has to be done in order to generate the new data. Okay, so here instead of using the security, so we just create a new data from the already existing one by means of the encoding and decoding. Okay, so the introduction of the randomness factors in the encoding process allows the VAEs to generate the diverse and similar data instances. Okay, so different data, so but it has to be some similarity in what you have to be searched. Okay, that is the user will want. Okay. And we've just gone through some examples and use cases of the generative AI. The first and foremost example is arts and entertainment. Mainly, it has to be focused on the gaming industries and the entertainment industries. And it has to be used in generating the film scripts. Okay, so we just telling the generative AI that one heroine, one or two heroes or something. Okay, so what the situation is, we just inform the generative AI that yeah. So we just explain the situation is, and the generative AI will create the film script itself. Okay, maybe a novels or poems and any virtual kind of literatures also. Okay, so as we have already specified, it can create the 3D models also. Okay, so it may be mainly focus on the arts and entertainment industries, and the technology and communications. In the realm of technology and communication, generative AI produces human-like text responses, making the chatbot more engaging and capable of maintaining the more natural and virtual assistance. Okay, so it acts as a natural and virtual assistance. So in the field of technology communication, how it incorporates or how it um, enchants the technology means if you just specify what so for example in the class the teacher has to say tomorrow you have to write an essay about something so on so for example electromagnetostatistics. Okay, so in the evening, the student has to just put the question about the electrostatistics. Um, he just get the content, how much content he wants. Okay, so as per their suggestions, uh, they have to produce the human-like text responses, and your ChatGPT is more engaging so based on the inputs or based on the outputs and how natural and the extended conversations may be. Okay. Okay. And so it has the ability to generate the human-like text, makes these virtual assistants more sophisticated and helpful. Okay. That's the main thing. So it's very helpful and here, if you are a PhD scholar or if you are a scholar, then you have to know that how much the plagiarism plays a role. Okay. So here, after the invention of the Chat GPT, so it just produces it may be very helpful than the previous generation of the virtual assistant, any other virtual assistant technology is. Okay, so because of the plagiarism came into existence, only you just recreate the already existing one. Okay, so if you are going for a new data or a new content that is very much close or very much similar that what you want, then it will be very helpful to the scholars also. Okay. So this is how the technology and communications has get a gain of the generative AI. And the next the next application is design and architecture. Okay. So in realistics, the design options and the ideas to assist the graphic designers in creating the unique design, okay, is very much feasible. So the design and architecture field, it general. So if you have to specify it as a wholeheartedly, so the design and architecture people can have a unique designs and they have design options, a lot of design options after the existence of the generative AI. Okay, it just not only produce the unique designs, it just produces the efficient floor plans based on the relevant training data. Okay, so how much the color or what should be the color of the room is, and then how much interior decorations or anything, what are the basic materials you have to be putting into the building. That has plays an important role in the design and in the architecture. So what are the interiors? If you just want to make a new design or a unique one, or so you just want to change the architecture without any cost. So you just change the architecture and show the pictures. Okay. So in the science and medicine, yes, in the life sciences plays an important role in order to deliver novel drug candidates and cutting the discovery phases to a matter of days instead of years. Okay, so if you want to develop a new drug, then in the olden days it maybe took a number of years. So, but by means of generative AI, it just took. So, if you want, if you just give the input as in the these many combinations of inputs, then it automatically creates what is your output drug will be. Okay, so this much amount saving is also very much important. And for the medical imaging, cancer now being used to generate the synthetic brain MRI images. Okay, so for each and every time you cannot go for the medical center or any MRI centers. So in order to take them images, brain images, instead, so if you are giving, so once you have to gone through the MRI images, so you just fed the images into the generative AI. It automatically creates what is your problem maybe. Okay, so even though it does not prescribe anything, so because of the doctor suggestion is the doctor's or radiology suggestion is the final one, so it may be produce some results based on the already existing data. Okay, so and the next foremost thing is e-commerce. So the e-commerce, the company is using GANs to create the hyper-realistic 3D models for advertising. Okay, so here the e-commerce rule came into existence for the 3D models, and they are mainly made for the advertising. Can be customized to fit the desired demographic and aesthetic images. Okay, and you have to create a new unique ideas in order to deliver your advertisement. Okay, because your 2 or 3 minutes advertisement has to reach the people, and it may be a catchy one. Okay, so for this we have to use the generative AI, and as I have already mentioned, so DALI and GPT-4 is the extension of so it's a type of them ChatGPT versions. So first you have specified what is DALI is. It's a trained on a large data set of images and the associated text descriptions. Okay, DALI is an example of a multi-modal AI application that identifies connections across multimedia data such as vision, text, and audio. Okay, so here DALI is a multi-modal specifications. It not only provides the text data, it also provides the video, audio data also. Okay, so suppose if you want to know what is an image of the human brain is. Okay, in general, the ChatGPT gives only the text-based contents. So here the DALI will also give the visual representation of the image brain and how the brain looks like and what are the different parts of the brain and the inner lobes also. Okay, so here the three-dimensional models has to be incorporated and the multi-model has to be incorporated in the DALIs also. It was built by the OpenAI. Okay, so we have already known OpenAI is the founder of the or is the developer of the ChatGPT, and the OpenAI is the GPT's implementation in 2021 only, and DALI 2, the second version, was released in the 2022. Okay. And ChatGPT, so AI-powered chatbot that took the world by storm in November 2022. So built in the, as I have already specified, the OpenAI's ChatGPT 3.5 implementation. It provides an interact and fine-tuned text response via a chat interface with interactive feedback. Okay, so how they collect the data? As I have already specified in the workflow, the data collection is more important in the generative AI. So they have collected the data from the already existing search engines. Okay, mostly they have collected it from the search engines and the feedback from the users with the interactive feedbacks. And the earlier versions of GPT were only accessible via an API. Okay, so the difference between the ChatGPT now we have used and the already existing chatbots are the already existing chatbots are working only by means of the API. Okay, application programming interface. If you have to download any applications only, then you have to use that any chatbots. Okay, but in the ChatGPT, it's open to all. Okay, so if you just type the ChatGPT and log into it, you have to get the content whatever you want. Your content may be text, images, or video, or anything. Okay, so and your content will be a new one, and it's a very flexible one that you want. Okay? And yes, this is the difference. But if the chat GPT is bad now, the name has changed as Gemini. Okay, so instead of bad, they have changed the name as Gemini. The chat GPT as run by the OpenAI. Here, the bad is run by the Google. Okay. So this is the difference between the chat GPT and the bird. So we can access the ChatGPT by means of the OpenAI site. Here we can access through any Google Bard site. Okay, so here also two different sites has to be gone through. So if you want to use the ChatGPT, you just go to the OpenAI site. If you want to use the Bard or Gemini, so you just go to the Google Bard site. Okay, so here in the ChatGPT, the service is free and there is a paid plan option also. Here in the bad, the service is the entire service is free. Okay, and in the chat GPT, it's based on the GPT. GPT is nothing but the generative pre-trained transformer. So here in the bad, it's based on the PALM2. Okay, PALM2 is pathways language model. Okay, so even though they have specified it as a different name, the model behind the both the ChatGPT and BARD is LLM, that is large language models. And here the ChatGPT is available to all. Yes, so it's open to all, and it's here in the BARD it's available to all, but must use the Google account. So if you are having any Google account, then the Google users will only use the BARD site. And the answers from the questions data based information from the 2021 and before. Okay, so up to 2021 data will be only incorporated in the ChatGPT. Okay, so here in the bad, as they have used already existing the Google search. So here the answer the questions are based on the real-time information from the Google searches. We directly get the information from the Google search and they incorporate the data and they have to show it in the real time. Okay, so that is the difference between the chat GPT and the BARD. So BARD, the name has changed as Gemini. Okay. Yes. So I have already spoke. So Gemini, bad name has changed as Gemini. So it's a pioneering transformer AI techniques for processing the languages, routines, and other types of content. It's open sourced and some of these models for researchers. However, it never released a public interface for these models. Okay, so because even though they have created even though the chat GPT and the Gemini, they have created the new content, but we cannot say the content they have displayed is how much accuracy they are having. Okay, so how much true matter they are having. Okay, so as a part of it, the Google team didn't release any public interface for these models. Okay, so because Microsoft's decisions to implement the GPT into the Bing drove Google to rush into the market a public-facing chatbot, Google Gemini, okay, built on the light versions of its Lambda family. But Google suffered a significant loss. Okay, so after the release of the Google Gemini, they have suffered a significant loss because the content is not that much reality to that of the real one. Okay, so then after that, they just withdraw the Google Gemini, and they have made another search, and they have to implement the PALM2. Okay, so Google has since unveiled a new version of the Gemini built on its most advanced LLM, PALM2. So which allows the Gemini to be more efficient and visual in its response to user queries.
Oh. Yeah.
Now they are making a research, and after that they have invented the POM2, an advanced version of the LLM, large language models, so which allows the Gemini to be more efficient and visual. It's just the extension, or it's a more feasible than that of the already existing Gemini. Okay. And what are the benefits of the generative AI? So I think we have already known much benefits through the chat GPT. So along with that, we can apply it extensively across the many areas of the business, and automating the manual process of writing content. That is the main thing we are using for the chat GPT. Reducing the effort of responding to the emails. We just automatically categorize which email has to be more incorporated, or has to be visualized, and improving the response to the specific technical queries. Okay, so question and answers is a tedious job, as we have known. So because technical queries has to be incorporated correctly. Okay, so if there is any mismatch in the technical words, then it leads to a contradiction. So, okay, so and by means of the generative AI, improving the response to the technical queries is somewhat improved, and creating the realistic representations of people. Okay, suppose we just know the way of writing of a person, then we have to create our own content based on the writings of the already existing one. Okay, so we just fed the realistic, we just fed the input of the input based on the way of writing of the corresponding person. For example, Leo Tolstoy. Okay, so if you have already known the way of writing, how you have to write the novel, and we just fed it into the AI, then the AI will generate the text just like how Leo Tolstoy will write a novel is. Okay, so the creating the realistic representation of the people is nowadays increased by means of the generative AI, and summarizing the complex information into a coherent narrative. Okay, so the complex information is mainly focused on the medical based content, as we have already known. This complex, some this complex information, and you have to narrative it into a coherent manner, then it will be helpful for the researchers for the future use. And then last one is simplifying the process of creating the content in a particular style. Yes, as I have already specified, if you have know the style of the Leo Tolstoy, we have created our own story or our own novel based on the Leo Tolstoy. Yes, okay. Even though it has some advantages, it has some challenges also. So the first and foremost challenge is data requirement. So for example, as I have spoken, the medical field. Okay, so the medical field also in particular, so Alzheimer's case. Okay, so the Alzheimer's disease cannot be spoken or uh, cannot be documented in most of the cases. Okay, so if you want to get any training data, so the data is the data will be lagging of data are there. Okay, so the data requirement, so we will plays an important role, as I have already specified. The data requirement or a data collection plays an important role in the generative AI. So if your data is a high quality, or it contains a feasible amount of data only, then you have to create a new content. Okay, if your data is not that much quality, we cannot expect them our expected result is. Okay, so and the second challenge is training complexity. Training complexity. So especially the more complex models such as GANs or transformer-based models is computationally intensive, time-consuming, and expensive. Okay, so if you Um, take an example as a Google search. The search engine itself contains the server of the search engine itself contains occupy a room itself. Okay, so you just think of it, how much data has to be stored in that search. Okay, so for every day, some kilobytes, some millions and trillions of data has to be stored, and we have to segregate what's the useful data, what is the quality, or how originality of the data is. Okay, so the training the data becomes very complex in the generative models. Okay, uh, controlling the output. Controlling the output can be a challenging. Might generate the content that is undesirable or irrelevant. Sometimes we may get the data that is unrelevant, undesirable or irrelevant data. Okay, so even though it's a machine, we cannot get much expected results from it. Okay, sometimes it may be lie also. For example, AI models to create the text that is imaginary, incorrect, offensive, or biased. Okay, sometimes it may create a text that is imaginary. Okay, it cannot be commit to existence, or it may be incorrect, or offensive, or biased. Okay, we have already specified, it just creates new content based on the already given input. Okay, so what we get is what we given only. Okay. And ethical concerns, as we have spoken about the ethics, have generally has several ethical concerns, especially in the terms of the authenticity and integrity of the generated content. Any fake news created by the gangs can be misused to spread the misinformation or fraudulent activities also. Okay, so what information that we have given as the input, that has to be processed in the generative AI only. So if suppose if we are given the fact news or fact information, so that has to be generated and given as the input. Okay, so or any fraudulent news has to be given, so that has to be generated as your input. Okay, that has to be generated out as your output. So it cannot specify any ethical concerns in the specific terms. We cannot specify it. Okay. And the last one is regulatory hurdles. There is a lack of clear regulatory guidelines for the use of the generative AI. Okay. As I have already specified, generative AI got the input from the already existing open content. Okay. So based on that, so any guidelines cannot, until now, there is no guidelines has to be given in order to specify them the originality, or if you just violate any laws and regulations, there is no certainty has specified here. Okay. So what are the concerns surrounding the generative AI? So these are the challenges. The challenges also some concerns. If you have provide any inaccurate or misleading information, as I have already spoken, if there is any fraudulent or fake image, fake informations are given as the input, then it can mislead to the incorporate inaccurate or misleading information. Okay, and it's more difficult to trust without knowing the source and provenance of information. Okay, yes, because we have, as I have already specified, the generative AI got the input only from the open source. Okay, open search engines or anything that is open to all. Okay, and the trust, how much trustworthy it is. Okay, the source that they have obtained from them open search engines, and how much trustworthy it may be. Okay, it can promote the new kinds of plagiarism. Yes, I have already mentioned also. If you are a scholar, then you know about the importance of plagiarism. Okay, if you have to create, you just specify the content, then you have to get the new content based on the already existing one. Then how much plagiarism will play the role? Uh, we don't know. So it can promote the new kinds of plagiarism that ignore the rights of the content creators and artists of the original content. Yes, it just ignores them the original content, and we don't know who was the creator of the original version is. Okay, and it might disturb the existing business model built around search engine optimization and advertising. Yes, it plays an important role. So what is the future of the search engine is? Okay, so if you have created the generative AI, after the creation of the generative AI, what will be the future of the search engines? For example, Google search also. Okay, nowadays most of our college students won't go to the Google search. They just directly goes to the chat GPT and just get the content what they want. Whether it's true or not, they don't know. Okay, but in the Google search, they just specify the originality of the contents, from where they get the content is has to be specified in the Google search. But in the chat GPT, so that is the foremost difference between the chat GPT and the Google search. In the Google search, you get the searching content, but in the searching content itself, they have specified from where they get the searching content is. The originality has to be mentioned there. Okay, but in the chat GPT, we doesn't know the originality. Okay, so whether it's true or not, whether our written content is already existing or not, or the authenticity of the content has to be specified. Okay, it's not there in the generative AI, and it makes it easier to generate the fake news. Yes. Even though so we just know we don't know whether it's a fake news, fraudulent or anything. We just spread it into an existence. Okay, just like that. Okay. It makes it easier to claim that real photographic evidence of a wrongdoing was just an AI generated fact. Yes. As I have already spoken, in nowadays the films also, they just recreated the dead persons in their films by means of the generative AI. And also if there is any realistic photograph, has to be again recreated by means of the AI generated fact photographs, and we cannot differentiate which one is real and which one is fact. Okay, so and it could impersonate people for more effective social engineering cyber attacks. Okay, so social engineering cyber attacks has come into existence by means of the people that who are using the Facebook, Twitters, and so on. Okay. So based on this, if there is any cyber attackers, cyber criminals, or that they have to be by means of the generative AI, it's very helpful for them to generate a fake news. Okay, so fake news has to be generated by me by the social engineering cyber attacking people. Okay. These are the common concerns if you are using the generative AI. Okay, so after that we have seen the challenges and also what are the concerns surrounding the generative AI. So on the best practices for using the generative AI. Okay, so until now we have seen what are the concerns for the generative AI. Okay, so now we have to see so in which way the concern has to be overcome. Okay, so for this we need the best practices for using the generative AI. Okay, so what are the best practices? So the best practices will vary depending on the modalities, workflow, and desired goals. Okay, so the first and foremost one is clearly label all the generative content for users and consumers. Okay. So as in the Google search, so what the Google search will tell, so they just gather the information where they have to get that information has to be incorporated in that information also. Okay. So here also in the generative AI, clearly labeling all the contents has to be specified. Okay, where they get the content has to be specified or has to be labeled in the content itself. That is the best practice. Okay. And the second one is when the accuracy of generated content using primary sources where applicable. Yes, I have previously said. So you have to specify the primary content where you have to get it from. That has to be specified. This has to be done by means of the accuracy. Okay, and consider how bias might get woven into generated AI results. Okay, so you have seen some Facebook videos. In that Facebook videos, they just deleted the contents because of that it may produce some racism content, or it has some any violated contents are there. Okay, before specifying the videos or before specifying any content, the AI has to just first gone through any violation has to be any racism or any violence has to be there in the content, and after the considerable considerations only, they have to be release the content. So consider how bias might get license and double check the quality of the AI generated code and content using other tools. Okay, and here also the quality and the content has to be double checked. Okay, as I have already said, and the Facebook, if there is any violence content is that they just deleted the content. Okay, and if there is any racism or there, they have deleted the content. So just like that, here also in the AI generator, in the generative AI also, so you have to double check the content by means of any other tools incorporated with it. Okay, and the next one is learn the strengths and limitations of each generative AI tool. Okay, so you just know the strengths and weaknesses and familiarize yourself with the common failure modes in results and work around those. Okay, so for example, if there is any content that is not adequate content is there in the field, so as I have already spoken, Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so you cannot get the Alzheimer's disease patient's information or patient's images. We cannot get as much images as possible. Okay, so if you're having some thousands or 10,000 images only, we have to go through some researches. Okay, so that in that information, the adequate images are not always consistent. Okay, so we just familiarize with the common failure modes, just like as I have spoken, and we have to work around those. Okay. These are the best practices for using the generative AI. Okay, so before going to came into existence into the generative AI, so we just make it these best practices, and we have to make it as a generative AI a more feasible one. Okay, so and what will be the future of the generative AI? So it's a incredible depth and ease of ChatGPT. It's a widespread adaptation of the generative AI. The speedy adaptation applications has also demonstrated some of the difficulties in rolling out this technology safely and responsibly. Here, yes, responsible plays an important role also, because so any fact or any fraudulent information has not to be spread over all over the world. Okay, so and the next one, indeed, the popularity of the generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and Gemini has also fueled an endless variety of training courses at all levels of expertise. Okay, so they are having some training courses at all levels of expertise also. And generative AI will continue to evolve, making advancements in translations, drug discovery, anomaly detection, and generation of new content from text and video to fashion design and music. Okay, so in the future, it may evolve, it may be improved in terms of the advancements in translation. Okay, so nowadays, if a language is in some some languages are there that has no specific written scripts are there. Okay, so that languages has come into existence, and making advancements in translation to that languages
Good afternoon, all. I think so. Due to network issues, ma'am have left before 5 minutes, so we can all wind up the class because ma'am has ended this section. Thank you all for participating very patiently. Thank you all. We can join on the same link tomorrow also. Recordings and feedbacks will be sent by end of the 5th day. Thank you all.